Esther has been having fun with friends and staff at the center in Burnie. Some of you have been there and you know that there's a really beautiful pond. It's manufactured, it's not real, but it has some headwaters that are pumped from the well, and it flows down some riverbanks into a bigger pond, and then that pond has some suction pipes in the bottom of it that pull the water into a filter. And then the filter does its thing, sifts out impurities, aerates, and puts the water back into the pond through a series of pipes. And when it's all working well, the pond is as clear as a mountain stream. There are koi fish in it and goldfish and a catfish or two, or at least there were. The pond is an active thing. But then it started to get cloudy. People came, they assessed it, they put bigger pumps in, still cloudy. And finally it was determined that the pipes putting the water back were clogged. Not just a little, a lot. Caliche, solid. So step one was happening. The asking was happening. The water was being called out. Step two was happening. Source was answering it, was being filtered, spinning in the vortex. But step three was not happening because the pipes were clogged. And even though everything was working to give back to this pond what it was asking for, the clogged pipes prevented it from coming. And so, with a lot of effort, people were working on unclogging those pipes. Snakes, sticks, metal things, nothing worked. They were really, really clogged from years of neglect. And so it was decided, since the pond is precious, so are the fish, why not lay new pipes? Esther said, sounds like a good idea to me. Someone said, let's lay them on top of the ground. Why bury them before we're sure it works? So new pipes were laid on top of the ground. And now, step one is happening, step two is happening, step three is happening. No more clogged pipes. The pond is thriving again. And we want to ask you, what do you think about just laying some new pipes? Because often, step one is happening. Your life is causing you to ask, in many cases, with more power and fervor, with more determination, with more desire than ever before. You're asking. Oh, you're really asking. And step two is happening. Source is doing its part. Source is knowing what you're asking for, lining up with it, becoming the vibrational equivalent of it, orchestrating circumstances and events, lining up all kinds of unfoldings. All cooperative components have been gathered. Everything's working for you, giving back to you precisely what you have asked for, with more definition and more deliberateness and more power and more love than you have any capacity to even begin to understand. But if your pipes are clogged up, if you're all bound up in habits of thought that don't resonate with the flowing that you are asking for, then you don't get the results you want. And you assume that there are things out of whack that are not out of whack. Sometimes you assume you're not worthy. Sometimes you assume you didn't ask in the right way. Sometimes you assume it's inappropriate for you to ask. Or sometimes you assume that when you ask, no one's there to answer. Sometimes you assume that something's gone wrong with the system, or that Abraham is completely crazy. You assume that a lot. Sometimes you assume that it's impossible. Sometimes you assume that you're defeated. Sometimes you feel like giving up. Sometimes you say, no more fun on this regard because I'm not getting any movement. So something is so out of whack. And we say, there's only ever only one thing out of whack. Because you can't stop asking. And Source never stops answering. But sometimes you get yourself bound up in a series of habits of thoughts. That's all a belief is a thought that you keep thinking. And you practice the thought, and law of attraction helps you practice it. Because when you get going on a thought's a vibration, you know. When you pick a vibration and you focus upon it just for a little while, law of attraction brings more like it. And as more like that come, it's easier for you to think more like that than anything else, until you get a pattern of vibration going that the current is so strong that even though source energy, even though your inner being, even though the power of your question, even though everything is in place, even though everything is always working out for you, even though you are never denied, even though you are never ignored, even though there is nothing ever wrong with your request. You have clogged pipes. So your results are it doesn't flow, and then your assumption is screwy. We think from this point forward, whether you like this analogy or not, we adore it. You're going to be thinking about your own clogged pipes. If you've been listening to us for a while, we've offered to you a lot of different analogies to help you understand who you are, who we are, and how we all fit together in this creative process. We explained to you that you are more than these physical bodies, that you are source energy, that you are extensions of source energy. But for the most part, humans don't accept that because you've practiced other bogus thoughts for so long that you do not accept easily that you are source energy in physical form. So even though we say it, your pipes are clogged and you do not hear it. Even though we know it, your pipes are clogged and you do not know it. So instead of looking for evidence of being blessed and evidence for things working out for you, you see evidence of otherwise, and then you focus there, practice a vibration of that, and hold your pipes in a more clogged position just to prove to yourself that you were right after all, that you are not blessed. And it turns out that the more not blessed you feel, the more you ask for blessings. The more those pipes suck. And the more you ask for blessings, for clarity, for solutions, the more you ask for mates and lovers and money, the more you ask for cooperation and fulfillment and love, the more you ask for it, the more is summoned on your behalf, the more is orchestrated on your behalf, and the more is delivered to you on your behalf. But if your pipes are clogged, you look just like that big old pressure pump. Instead of operating at 8 pounds of pressure, you get up around 40 and 50 and you look like you're going to explode. Because you can't stop asking. Oh, you think you can. You say, never mind, but you don't mean it. And you cannot step back from the asking that your life has caused you to come to. You can't step back. You can't say, I wanted it then, but I don't want it now. Oh, you can say it, but you can't mean it. Because if this time-space reality has caused this expansion or evolution within you, that's who you now are. You got to find a way to let the pressure off your own pump, you see. So that's what we've been about all these years, helping you to figure out how to let the natural step 1 and the natural step 2 be finally realized by you by applying the not so natural and a little harder to understand step 3 that is your work. You got to figure out how to become a vibrational equivalent to the thing that you're asking for. Because if you are a vibrational variance from it, even though you've asked and even though it's answered, you can't realize it because you're not on the same frequency. Can't set your radio dial on 101 FM or 101 AM and hear what's being broadcast from a frequency that is different from that. Your tuner has to match the broadcasting frequency. So when you ask, there's a frequency broadcast, and we got to tell you, when Source gets hold of it and begins beaming it back to you, it's a signal of such velocity, such power, and such clarity that it doesn't take even a lot of fine-tuning. You just got to be somewhere in the vicinity, you see. You just got to get somewhere in the vicinity of it, and you'll begin to get evidence of your alignment. So over time, we've talked to you about how these 3 steps exist, and many of you intellectually or conceptually can understand that. But the thing that you have the most difficulty in accepting is the worthiness of your being. And we know why. You let your feeling of worthiness be contingent upon your outcomes, and you're forgetting all about your clogged pipes. When you realize that your outcomes are only about your application of thought, your practice of vibration, your choosing of a vibrational frequency, that it is our promise to you. And this is the word of the day, of the month, of the year, of the decade, of the century, of all of eternity. Your vibration will increase in its velocity because momentum is at the basis of law of attraction. So it doesn't matter what thought you choose. Give it 17 seconds of attention and momentum ensues. And in another 17 seconds, more momentum, and in another 17 seconds, more momentum, until there is eventually enough momentum going because of the thought that you have chosen, that you've either chosen to have momentum that is an allowing state or is in a disallowing state, but it is momentum nonetheless. Momentum that is going to play itself out. The question is, how far is it going to go before you make a decision to do something about the choosing of a vibration and the perpetuation of a momentum? And that's why we call you potential, not certain, deliberate creators. You have the ability to choose the frequency that you practice. Most of you look around you, observe, and choose. So you don't feel in control of your choices. It feels like as things happen to you, feels like life is happening to you, not that you are choosing it. But that's never true. You are always the chooser of your experience. There's no help on the way, but hang on. When you realize that you are the creator of your own reality, which means you are the chooser of your own thought, which means you are the perpetuator of your own momentum, then you begin to understand what deliberate creation really is. So over time, we've explained to you these 3 steps, and then we began saying to you that as you were source energy before you came into this physical body, a part of that source energy focused into the personality known as you and sent you here as the leading edge expression of that which is source. Now that's hard for you to hear, but it is true nonetheless. So here you explore out here on this leading edge. And as you explore, you know what you don't want, which causes you to know what you do want all day, every day. And these rockets of clarity exude forth from you. We've been calling them rockets of desire, rockets of preferences, rockets of determination. These rockets move forth from you. And in the moment that you launch a rocket, which happens all day, every day, the source within you becomes the vibrational equivalent of that rocket. And step 2 has just happened. You've been answered because the larger part of you has just become the full vibrational equivalent of the new thing that you have just asked for. Now, if you don't immediately move up to speed with that desire, then you're going to feel some vibrational variance, not resonance, variance, sort of like we started out here in this room today. Variance, ripples in your vibration, discomfort. And that discomfort is going to be a part of your life experience as long as you don't understand or don't apply your ability to come into full resonance with yourself as you expand. So we would like to say to you that if you are a frequent feeler of negative emotion, and if you are human, you are, that you must understand that that negative emotion that you feel is your guidance that is there to help you equalize the vibrations within you with that which is your source. And as you begin to understand that that is your quest, then you will begin to live your life as you intended. You will begin to live happily ever after in the way that you intended. Otherwise, you're trying to keep contrast from happening, and you can't. So it's happening anyway, and you're resisting it. And as it's happening anyway, and you're resisting it, now you're not in vibrational sync with the expansion that took place because of it. And now you're attempting the impossible, which is withdrawing from this powerful energy that you were born to flow. You have access to the energy that creates worlds. Do you like that idea? We like that idea for you. Well, now you know, or at least you've heard, everything we know. There is nothing that we could ever say to you that will be of greater benefit or consequence to you than that you are the creator of your own reality, and that you create effectively when you care how you feel and you do your best to mold your thoughts into vibrational harmony with that which is your source. So we've been talking to you about this contrast that is causing rockets to go into what we've been calling a vibrational reality. Later we called it a vortex of creation. It's the vibrational version that precedes all manifestation. And today we are wanting to remind you that as those rockets go off, that you're creating a vibrational version of who you are and what you want, but you have all day, every day, a vibrational relationship with that. And that's what equals the way you feel. If life didn't cause you to expand, and if you didn't expand, then you would never have any emotional relationship with that expansion. In other words, it wouldn't matter if you got up to speed with it, because there wouldn't be anything new to get up to speed with. But then that could never be, could it? couldn't be here in this physical body if that were the premise of life experience.